everyone, I'm Brenda Harvey, author of The Conspiracy, and today I wanted to talk to you about the setting of your story, but before we get into that, I need you to go ahead and click the like button and the subscribe button. That's going to help me out a lot. Okay, now let's get into the video. Okay, so first we need to talk about what is a setting. So a setting is basically wherever your story takes place. So if your story took place in a forest, that would be your setting, a forest setting. If your story took place in a banana, the inside of a banana would be your setting. So for a setting, no one knows what the setting is except you, unless you write it. So a setting is not just a field. You have to describe it. So how tall was the grass? Were there trees around it? What color was the grass? Was there even grass? Were there flowers? Were there insects? So all of those things have to go into your setting. It's I opened the door to my classroom versus I opened the door of the third room all the way down the hallway. 20 desks were lined in rows, all facing the whiteboard with several equations that seemed to have something to do with logarithms. The teacher sat in the corner, grading books as the students hunched over their papers, scribbling down answers to whatever they were looking at. So now you do have like a rough idea, but that is not good enough. Who were the students? So let's go back to that field. The grass was yellow with age, coming up to my waist. Bees buzzed around small purple flowers that grew just short of the grass's height. The ground beneath my feet was soft. The sky, bright blue, almost radiant, and the sun seemed to be brighter than ever before. The cold breeze tickled my arms as I made my way through the endless sea of grass and flowers. So see, that is much better than a field. So your setting is never going to be a field. It's going to be a specific field. Now, you don't have to get specific with coordinate points. You just have to be specific with detail. And this applies to describing your characters too, but right now we're just going to focus on setting. So what you need to keep in mind is what it looks like. So this one is obvious. Yellow grass, purple flowers, blue skies. What does it smell like? Sweet flowers? Is that what it smells like? Or does it smell like rotten fruit? If it's appropriate, what does it taste like? What sounds do you hear? The buzzing of the bees, the breeze. And then feel and feel. So there are two different feels here. There's feel what you can touch and feel like how it makes you feel, your feelings. So there's the grass was soft, the breeze was cold, and it felt like home. So two very, very different feels, but you have to describe it all. So it was cold, but it felt dreamy. It was cold, but it felt like home. So now, seeing is probably the easiest to do for us to understand. So yellowed grass up to this character's waist. Purple flowers just short of the height of the grass. Bright blue skies. The sun brighter than ever before. These are all things you see. Smell. Probably smells sweet from the flowers, maybe honey smells like from the grass. You're going to want to describe that, like it smelled sweet or like bread or something like that. So you're going to want to include that. Sounds, the buzzing of the bees, the swish of the grass as you walk, the sound of your footsteps, the roaring of the breeze. These are all sounds. Taste, I guess you can say I could almost taste the grass, but I mean, in certain situations that doesn't make sense, and I know a lot of English teachers are going to disagree with me on this, but taste does not always apply to a situation because there's no eating, and sometimes it's like, it smelled so bad I could almost taste it. That would be a time when taste is implied, but in our field example, it doesn't really apply. Now, feel number 1. The grass was soft, the breeze was cold. Those are all feel. And then there's feel number 2. So it felt mysterious, but open and calming. So now you can sort of picture this field because of all the details. So I walked through the big field, yellowed grass touched my waist, with purple flowers growing just short of the height. The blue sky hung low in the late afternoon. The sun seemed brighter than it ever had before. I could hear the buzz of the bees flying from flower to flower. The loud breeze tickled my arms, making me feel cold. Beautiful, sad, tragic, it seemed, the whole thing. I could smell wheat and the flowers in the air. So sweet I could almost taste it. Now, that would be a pretty good example of a setting. So you can pretty much picture that in your mind. As opposed to there was a field. Do you see how different that is? That also increases your word count, which if you want to be considered a novel, you have to have X amount of words for it to count. Otherwise, it's a novella or a short story. So why is setting important? Well, it gives your reader a basic sense of what's going on. If you don't describe the field, then your character could be walking through a marsh or a war zone. So you do have to describe these things so your reader understands what your character is going through. And without the setting, honestly, you just can't really get a good picture. Now, there is such thing as too much description. For example, The Lord of the Rings has a lot of description. I'm not going to say if that's good or bad, but typically you want as much description as you need for your reader to clearly picture it. Beyond that is just way too much and your reader is not going to want to read it. So as long as they have a pretty good sense, if not a perfect sense, of what's going on in your setting, then you don't need to add anything more. It's going to be perfect. Okay, and that is everything I have for you. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that thumbs up button. I have a website linked in the description, brendaharvey.weebly.com. I also have a podcast, Political History, What Could Go Wrong. That is also linked in the description. And make sure to buy The Conspiracy. I think you're really going to enjoy it. And I will be letting you know through my blog when the next book in the Conspiracy series will be coming out. So make sure you are subscribed to that newsletter on my website, and I will see you guys next week. Bye!